Hare Krishna, everyone. Okay.
So, wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Nrsingadev, Gonitai, Tulsi Bani, Guru Parampara, Srila Prabhupada, and Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So today we want to start with chapter 5 of Canto number 3. So far we have looked at chapters 1 to 4. And chapter 5 is Vidu's talks with Maitreya Rishi. So up to now, Vidur and Uddhav were communicating, talking, and then Uddhav decided to go to Badrikaksham because he wanted to be with Narnarayan Rishi, incarnation of the Supreme Lord, because he was very sad due to the departure of Krishna. So now, any advice, Vidur, please talk to. You can ask questions of Maitreya Rishi, who was also with Krishna at the end. Vidur humbly asks Maitreya Rishi many questions, such as how one should act for real happiness, how to please the Lord by devotional service, how Krishna incarnates and creates the world universe with its planets and living entities. Vidur's questions, out of natural humility, did not inquire from Maitreya directly about the Lord, but inquired into the subject matters which are relevant to the common man. Expressing his dissatisfaction with mundane topics, Vidur implores Maitreya Rishi to discuss topics about the Lord. Remembrance of the Lord's lotus feet is the way to achieve transcendence, free from misery. Discussion on transcendental topics can cut off one's bondage simply by entering the earlobes. So, this is such an important point. Mostly everybody is just engaged in mundane topics. They're just discussing about this material world. Either they're talking about their work, family, food, and actually the most important topic is forgotten, and that is the Supreme Lord, to talk about the Lord and his devotees. Because that is what's going to cut off our bondage simply by hearing the topics of the Supreme Lord. Maitreya Rishi, glorifying the exalted position of Vidur as one of the Lord's eternal associates, happily agrees to discuss Krishna's pastimes, which are beneficial for all concerned, including the speaker. So even that person who knows about God and who's speaking about God benefits because the topics of Krishna purifies everybody. The speaker, the listener, the audience, everybody. Maitreya mentioned that he knows that Vidur was previously Yamraj, cursed to be born as a Shudra by Mandhavya Muni. The Lord left special instructions with Maitreya Rishi for Vidur before he departed from this world. To describe the creation process, Maitreya first described the prior state as per the Chatur Sloki, that only Bhagwan exists. So this is really important to understand, that before the creation of this world, there is only the spiritual world where God exists with his devotees. Whilst the internal energy is always manifested, the Lord, missing the forgetful, sleeping, conditioned souls, wanted to create the external energy, the cosmic manifestation. to give these souls, another opportunity to come back to him. So the souls are all in Mahavishnu's body, and Mahavishnu wants to give them a chance to come out and do their activities, and hopefully they will engage in the Lord's seva and go back to the Lord. By his glance, Mahatattva is activated, which transforms into false ego, which is predominated by the mode of ignorance. So the process of creation. All the 5 basic elements and the qualities were then created along with the mind, the demigods, the senses, through interaction of the false ego with the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So these 3 modes are very instrumental in the creation process. All of the 5 basic elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether are created in conjunction with the modes of ignorance. In every instance, the Lord's glance was the finishing touch. So this is a little idea. We have Karandaksha Vishnu, that's the Vishnu lying on the ocean. Within him is the jivas and Kala. Kala is the Mahatattva, effectively. And this material nature, Pradhan, which is Pradhan is the undifferentiated Mahatattva. So it's like all of material energy put together, which comes into shape as the Mahatattva, depending on the 3 modes. And then Ahankar is developed, again with the 3 modes. And then different things are effected according to the 3 modes and the interaction with the Mahatattva. The 10 senses, the mind, the devatas. The 10 senses are ears, eyes, skin, nose, tongue, hands, feet, voice, anus, genitals. And then the devatas, who are in charge of all of these things, are these here. Dig Devata, Surya is in charge of eyes, Vayu in charge of skin, Ashwini Kumar in charge of nose, Varun in charge of tongue, Indra in charge of hands, Upendra in charge of the feet, Agni is in charge of the voice, Mitra in charge of the anus, Pujapati is the genitals. And these are the main 5 sense objects, senses, and these are the 5 elements, the material elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether. The glorious shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. The controlling deities of all the physical elements are empowered expansions of Lord Vishnu, and they were entrusted with different functions of universal duties. So these devatas, they help the Supreme Lord to conduct the functions of the universal duties. However, they were unable to perform them, and thus they offered fascinating prayers to the Lord. The demigods' prayers for Krishna's protection and guidance, taking shelter of his lotus feet. They prayed for his guidance. By meditating on these feet, one crosses the material ocean, gaining knowledge, then detachment, then peaceful heart. So first we have to have Gyan. From Gyan comes Vigyan, wisdom. And wisdom is effectively knowing that we should not be attached to this world. So detachment naturally comes. And when we are detached, we have a peaceful mind. The reason being, we're not worried about anything. We're detached from everything. So the demigods prayed that those pure devotees who are free from material attachment and offenses can take shelter of your lotus feet and topics, joyfully attain Vaikuntha, whereas those who strive to attain success on their own strength suffer pain. So if we work with the Lord in our hearts and mind, then we will be successful. Thinking that it is only by the Lord's mercy that anything is happening. Those who are thinking, I am the doer, I do everything myself, I don't need anybody, they suffer pain. Because ultimately, there is no question of success in the material world. Anything we earn, any family we have, cars, homes, everything is destroyed at the time of death. Offensive persons whose internal vision has been too affected by external materialistic activities cannot see the Lord's lotus feet, but they are seen by his pure devotees, whose one and only aim is to transcendentally enjoy his activities. Persons who, because of their serious attitude, attain the stage of enlightenment, devotional service, achieve the complete meaning of renunciation and knowledge, and attain Vaikuntha Lok in the spiritual sky simply by drinking the nectar of your topics. This is so amazing. Regretting the inability to do their service in their different departments of creation, the demigods ask Krishna to instruct them how to act for his pleasure. Since they have all been separately born, they do not know how to act in unity. At this stage of the universal creation, the 23 elements, namely Mahatattva, Ahankar, 5 subtle and 5 gross elements, 10 senses, and the mind, are existing in an unmixed state. That's called the pradhan, basically. So nothing is all mixed up. There's no differentiation between this. Therefore, the creative activities are suspended, hence the prayers by the deities of these elements. That's why they couldn't do anything, because nothing was separate. That needed the eye of God to make it separate. Chapter 6. Creation of the universal form. So again, we're going to talk about the universal form. In Canto 2, 3 times, the universal form was described. Now again, having heard of the suspension of the creative process, Lord Vishnu entered the 23 elements together with Maya Devi, and he enlivened the living entities into activity, and the elements became transformed into a gigantic universal form, or the Vishwarup of body of the Lord. This universal form of the Lord is the total energy of Mahatattva, which he divides into. So this is everything, which is divided into Jiva Shakti, us, the living entities, Prana Shakti, the life heirs, Atma Shakti, self-identification. These 3 are divided into 1, 10, and 3 separately. This is quite complicated, of course. The 1 is the heart, where life energy is generated. The 3 is Adhyatma, body, mind, and senses. And the 10 is the Adibhuta, the gross organs and the sense objects. So this is quite a complex process that is being explained to Vidur by Maitreya Rishi. This Virat Rup is the first incarnation of Garbhadakshayi Vishnu. So sometimes we hear that the Virat Rup is the expansion of Kshirodakshayi Vishnu, the Paramatma. And sometimes it is Garbhadakshayi Vishnu. The Supreme Lord then manifested the demigods connected with the active principal parts of this body, thus enabling the living entities to also manifest the functions of the senses, both knowledge acquiring and active senses. The Supreme Lord continued to manifest more subtle elements of creation along with their deities. Thus, qualities such as understanding, speculation, and action were created. So everything is created by the Supreme Lord. By his glance. He also manifested the planetary systems and the 4 varnas. The Brahmins that came from the mouth, which indicates wisdom. Kshatriya came from the arms, which indicates protection. Vaishya came from the thighs, which means production. Shudras come from the legs, which is service, seva. Maitreya offers obeisances to the Lord, appreciating the inconceivable potencies of the Supreme Lord in the matter of creation. Maitreya Rishi understood his own ability, although limited due to humility. So, he's saying, my ability is very little, but actually, that's only his humility. To describe creation that is given by his spiritual master. So he is paying his pranams to his guru and the Lord for the unconditioned life and self-realization. One has to worship the Supreme Lord under the direction of the spiritual master. Thus he offers obeisances to the Lord. So chapter 7. Vidur's questions about further inquiries by Vidur. He's got questions about Ishwar and the Jivas. Vidur asks Maitreya Rishi about some apparent contradiction in the relationship between the Lord, the living entities, and material nature. Does the Lord become entangled? So he's involved in the creation process. Does he get entangled? Is he subject to birth and death? How does the Lord, who is unchangeable, perform actions that indicate change? Because he's eternal, nothing changes. But yet, he's come into the material world, everything changes. And how does the pure living entity become bewildered in spite of the Lord's presence in the heart? So with us, there is Paramatma. So Vidur is questioning, how is it? Paramatma is just next to us. How come we become entangled in this world? God is just next to us. Maitreya answers that it is illogical to say that the Lord is overcome by illusion, and yet he is unconditioned. So we can't have it both ways. The Lord is always pure because he is not conditioned. The tiny living entities, although overwhelmed by ignorance, and what is ignorance? Identification with this body. I am this body. That's wrong. Just as one sees his head cut off in a dream, can become happy by chanting the Lord's glories and become forever freed from unlimited miserable conditions. The solution is bhakti. Bhakti is the solution. Vidur expresses appreciation for Maitreya Rishi. Maitreya Rishi's explanation. He explains that both the lowest of fools and the transcendental saint enjoy happiness. So if you see the drunkards, they're enjoying, right? That enjoyment is in the mode of ignorance. It's not real enjoyment. It's suffering. But they think they're enjoying. And the sadhu is enjoying. And the sadhu's enjoyment is real. Whereas persons between them suffer the material pangs. He expresses his heartfelt desire to serve Maitreya Rishi's pure devotees' lotus feet. This service is rare to obtain for one whose austerity is meager. So if we don't do tapasya, if we don't do fasting on Ekadashi, if we don't fast when the Lord appears and the devotees appear, if we don't do our chanting, then where is the question of compassion from the Lord? It's very difficult to get. And seva. Maitreya gives him a glimpse in chapter 5 and 6 about creation, and Vindur inquires regarding this in more detail. He inquired about Brahma's establishing the manus, the planets, the situation and measurements of these planets, the living beings under different classifications, subhumans, humans, those who are born of the embryo, those who are born of perspiration, those who are twice born. birds. I'm not sure why birds are there. And the plants and vegetables. Krishna's incarnations. So Vidur is asking about Krishna's organization of human society. How are we so organized so that we can function properly? He's asked about yoga, yajna, jnana, and sankhya. Asked about the imperfections of faithless and movement of the living beings in various species. Religiously ordered life and regulations, the planet's time schedule, death rites, division of time, charity, austerity, sacrifice, and duties in different situations. Lots and lots of questions. How to satisfy Krishna, the material dissolution, and who survives it. Devotional seva, service, and knowledge of spiritual life and need for Guru and Shishya. And then Vidur, he says to Maitreya, I declare you as the friend of all, especially for those who have lost their vision. And his answers, Maitreya's answers, will grant immunity from all material miseries. Such charity is greater than all Vedic charities, sacrifices, penances, etc. So this is such an important thing. He's asking these questions and then he's saying, you can answer them. You know the answers. Please answer. Help us understand. And we'll do the last one today. Chapter 8, Manifestation of Brahma from Garbhadakshay Vishnu. So this is the first question Vidur asked. Vidur asked and Maitreya is answering. Maitreya was pleased with Vidur's inquiries, and he stated that the transcendental pastimes of the Lord become newer and newer at every moment. When there is enthusiasm to hear about the Lord, when there is that enthusiasm. Otherwise, it becomes very boring. We have to have enthusiasm. Then Lord's pastimes are newer and newer. Maitreya proposes to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam as he heard it in reciprocal succession, beginning with Lord Sankarasan to Sanat Kumar and Sankyayana Muni to Parashuram, Parasar Muni and Brihaspati to Maitreya. So this is the succession of that Bhagavatam. It went from Sankarasan, Lord Sankarasan to Sanat Kumar, to Sankhayana Muni, to Parasar Muni, and Brihaspati at the same time, to Maitreya. So this is this chain of dislipic succession. When Lord Sankarasan was speaking, the sages came from the highest planets down to the lower regions through the water of the Ganga and touched the lotus feet of the Lord. So even now, we wonder how some of these great saints come to the Ganga because they don't have any money, practically speaking. They don't have any clothes. They don't wear any clothes. But they are all there in the Kumbh Mela, millions of them. So it is said that they actually come through the Ganga. In the case of a full dissolution of the universe, which happens at the end of the life of Brahma, the material energy is completely wound up. So when Lord Vishnu breathes in, Brahma's life is finished. In the case of a partial dissolution, that happens at the end of the day of Brahma. So every single day, when the end of Brahma's day comes, there's a partial dissolution. So only Earth and the lower planetary systems and heaven is destroyed. The others are staying in place. Only the gross bodies of the jivas become unmanifest, while their subtle bodies and their karmas merge within the body of Garbhadakshay Vishnu. So at the end, we all merge into Garbhadakshay Vishnu, at least our subtle bodies, mind, intelligence, ego, and karma. They become reawakened with the glance of the Lord and sprout from his navel. And then Brahma, known as the self-born, Swayambhuva, was born. Brahma, situated on the center of the lotus, could not see the world. So this is when Brahma was born. He couldn't see anything. He was on the top of the lotus. While moving his eyes in the four directions to see, he obtained four heads. So he was looking, 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 and he got four heads. Brahma's bewilderment about the creation reveals that it is difficult to understand the mystery of creation by mental speculation, and that Brahma's power to create is not his own, but was coming from the Lord. Brahma contemplated, who am I situated on top of the lotus? Where from has it sprouted? There must be something from which it is originating. He entered the lotus stem. So Brahma was there at the top. He was moving his head, trying to find, where am I? He got four heads by doing that. And then he was just wondering what to do next. Why am I here? So then he went down the stem, the lotus stem, but he could not trace out the root. Giving up on his unsuccessful search, he came back to the top of the lotus and meditated on the Lord. After 100 human years of meditation, he could see the Lord in his heart. There you go. This is Brahma. He's looking, looking, looking. Then he goes down that stem. Then he comes back again. He starts meditating. The luster of the transcendental body of the Lord mocked. He could see the Lord in his heart, right? So the luster of the Lord's body mocked the beauty of the coral mountain. The coral mountain is very beautiful, beautifully dressed by the evening sky. But the yellow dress of the Lord mocked his beauty. His transcendental body, unlimited in length and breadth, occupied the three planetary systems, upper, middle, and lower. His body was self-illuminated by unparalleled dress and variegatedness, and was properly ornamented. The Lord showed his lotus feet by raising them. His lotus feet are the source of all awards achieved by devotional service, free from material contamination. Seeing all this, Brahma concluded that he is Lord Hari. In this way, the Lord inspired Brahma with the desire to create, who began offering prayers to the Lord. So this is the coral, the beautiful coral. So let's stop there. Any questions? This is quite a complex area of philosophy in the Bhagavatam. So please don't get too worried if it's hard to understand. It's practically impossible to understand for us. But it's good to read through it, try to understand it. Any questions?
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Hare Krishna.
I forgot the meaning, two meanings about one jivas. I remember you said the meaning, but I forgot. The second was the meaning of transcendental bodies.
So jiva is us, the living entity.
Jiva is us.
The soul, the soul.
Our
Atma.
us means our Atma.
Atma, yeah.
Okay, let me write down.
And transcendental body is when the Atma goes back to the spiritual world, he gets a spiritual body. That's called transcendental body.
So when Atma leaves us,
when the Atma leaves to go back to God.
Atma, all right. Let me quickly write down that.
Yeah,
Atma,
sure. To go back to God.
To go.
He gets a transcendental body.
Atma go back to God. Then he gets
transcendental body.
All right. So when you're reading transcendental, you use that word a lot. So I get mixed up.
Transcendental means spiritual body. Spiritual body.
Yeah, and you said something about sages came down with the river Ganga.
Yeah.
Sages are those sons
Yes,
The one you said
sages,
who are
devotees.
not wearing
Ah,
clothes.
Haji, devotees. That's right.
So from where they come? Are they in mountains?
Yeah, these ones they live in the region of the Himalayas or the Nagaland. Yeah, up quite far away.
And when this Kumbh Mela come, they are all
They
traveling
appear.
down.
Yeah, they appear. They don't come in aeroplane. They don't come in the train. So
They,
you think, how did they come?
and they come through the river.
That's what some people say. Yeah,
I mean, they're swimming.
something like that. But it's not so easy to swim. They just appear. Yeah, they just appear.
Oh, all right.
It's
Okay.
fascinating.
Yeah, I was wondering when you said that the sages come through the river and they go in this Kumbh
Yeah,
Mela, and that is
it's,
after every 12 years.
yeah, that's
And
correct.
is Kumbh Mela done every year or is it every 12th year?
Kumbh Mela every 12 years. Yes, the Kumbh Mela is every 12 years.
All
That's,
right. So now the one this year done. So next year there will be no Kumbh Mela.
no, no. After
Oh,
6 years, they do Adha Kumbh Mela.
after 6 year. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's
Very good.
nice to know things.
Yeah,
All
no.
right. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. Huh? Hare Krishna.
Yes.
So,
Kumbh
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Mela come. Come.